Invariably, there's nothing much to be discerned from most of these blurred images, and their provenance is often unknown. In a quiet suburb of Lowestoft, what could prove to be a classic UFO story is unfolding. It involves David Spoor and his wife Jean, a respected local couple. David is an accomplished landscape photographer, but he says he cannot make a living from it. We paid him for exclusive television access to other video pictures that he had taken. Jean Spoor is a local councillor, and during the day, while she's at work, her husband spends many hours on the roof of their house, scanning the skies of Lowestoft. During the past 18 months, David Spoor has recorded some extraordinary pictures.
One August evening, I think it was the 19th, about 7:45, I was closing my garage door and just looked up in the sky. I very often do that, being interested in photography, I'm interested in skies. I looked up and I saw this sort of strange cylindrical shaped object, cigar shaped, whatever you like to call it, coming over from the west, more or less directly over the house. I was sort of quite rooted to the spot for a few seconds, because it was just unusual to see something coming without any wings, no sound, anything. I propped the camera on the fence just outside the back door, got a few frames of it before it sort of seemed to accelerate at terrific speed into the east and disappeared completely. That was the first time that I'd ever seen anything, or certainly videoed anything.
In the following year, David Spoor saw and photographed at least 2 more UFOs, and the next extraordinary sighting was also witnessed by his wife.
I was actually in my sun lounge reading the paper, as far as I can remember. I had my camera with me most of the time, and looked out and I saw this object which appeared to be hovering in the northeast. I picked my camera up and I started filming this object. At first it was stationary for a minute or so, and then it appeared to move sideways.
It was moving over the bush, coming across, going out to sea, in the direction of the sea, very, very slowly. No sound, just hovering across. But unfortunately I was going to work and it was a deadline, so I could only watch it for a certain time, and then I had to leave it with David to see where it ended.
When it went behind a tree, I know I came around to the side of the house and more towards the front to see if I could pick it up again, and I did pick it up, and it had moved the other way and I lost it behind part of the house. And this wasn't a tremendously long sighting, but it was an interesting one because it was a daylight sighting, and the object appeared to be quite, well, I don't know if it's solid, but it certainly was a luminous object rather than just a light, and it appeared to be what might be called a sort of almost traditional saucer. That is what I can only describe it as, what it appeared to me.
The fact is, David Spoor is a skillful stills photographer. What does he say to those who will insist that he's faking these videos?
All I can say is just have a look at what I've taken, have a look at what the footage I've done, and especially perhaps the daylight ones, and if they can work out a way how that could be faked, they're a better man than I am, because I don't know how I could have faked any of those, and I can say categorically that I haven't faked them. They are things that have happened that I have seen, that my wife has seen. Whether people believe me, all I can say is that that is the truth.
The Defence Evaluation and Research Agency at Farnborough is an executive branch of the Ministry of Defence. They agreed to look at David Spoor's pictures. Dr. Richard Crowther is expert in, among other things, identifying space debris in the skies over Britain. We asked him if he knew what the unidentified objects in David Spore's pictures were.
Potentially it could be a tank from a launch vehicle, it could be any pressurised vessel from a satellite. Without any idea of the resolution, any idea of the distance from the observer, any reference point against which the motion can be measured, I'm not confident that it is space debris. This could be some atmospheric phenomenon, such as a cloud, which is illuminated in a certain way by the sun. It's unlikely to be space debris simply because the apparent motion is stationary. If there is an object there, a physical object there in the sky, it could be an aircraft or whatever, but as I say, I would not imagine it's a piece of space debris.
A few days later, Richard Crowther called to say that the image that David Spore had recorded on the 19th of August could have been the American space shuttle passing over Lowestoft as it returned to Earth. It was scheduled to be over the North Sea around lunchtime that day. David Spore says his video was taken at about 7:45 in the evening. Spore's most controversial pictures were to come about a year later.
My wife was actually out at council meeting with some other councillors, and I looked towards the east and I managed to get a shot of it with the camera actually propped on the top of our car, so it's fairly steady. It kept in that position for around half a minute or so. Then it suddenly shot off quite a pretty fast speed, fast enough that I couldn't keep up with it. Once it disappeared, I stopped filming and tried to move around to the house to see if I could pick it up anywhere else, and I couldn't see it anywhere. Again, it made no